All right, hey guys, I'm going to answer some questions about blood typing. I wrote on Facebook today that I was buying some pasture-raised lamb and lamb bones for my son because we just found out that he is B positive. So people have been asking, like, why does it matter what food you give, blood types, does it even matter? All right, well, first of all, as a nutritionist, I will say that there are a lot of factors in what you should and shouldn't eat. And it's not just blood typing, it has to do with your metabolic type, whether you run parasympathetic dominant, or sympathetic dominant, and just the type of person you are as well. Now, when you start giving your child solid foods or giving them broths and stuff, I really highly recommend going based on their blood type, because foods that are good for your blood type are foods that will nourish your body the best, and then foods that are not good for your blood type are can really cause some trouble with the body, especially a new little human who is just now exploring new foods that aren't just breast milk. So I'm going to go through a quick little list about certain things for, the different 4 blood types. And if you want to visit my website later, I will be posting a little bit more in depth about it. There's also a lot of books out there that can adequately explain things better for you. And then it's really good to reference it. Now you can tell me, I know that you're probably going to hear some of the things I say and you're going to be like, well, wait, I am A blood type and I eat red meat all the time and I don't have any problem with it. Okay, well that's great for you, but what I would recommend is eating according to your blood type for like a week or 2 and seeing if you feel any different, if you're feeling like, you're feeling better, you have more energy, because sometimes eating for your blood type is 100% perfect once you're an adult, and then sometimes it doesn't really work out well for you. But like I said, there are other things that play a factor, like, your metabolic type, whether you run, hot or cold, if you're parasympathetic dominant or sympathetic dominant. So there's a lot of factors that play into what you should eat on a daily basis. But if you really just want to kind of go to the basics, you can look at the blood types first. So type A blood types are designed to be vegetarians. They can handle certain meats like fish, turkey, and chicken. Usually they tend to be more of a romantic person. They look at the romance in a lot of things. They were they fairy tale type of thing. That's how a lot of times A blood types are. They're very sensitive people most of the time as well. I have a little cheat sheet here that I wrote up from school so I can quickly reference it for clients. Their exercise shouldn't be too intense. Oftentimes they do yoga or Pilates, but A blood types tend to be like, oh, I want to do all the exercise, I want to do all the hard working stuff, but they get burnt out from it, and it can cause adrenal fatigue too for people who are A blood types. Also, you should not consume much dairy, red meat, or much grains. Like I said, that just depends on the person. Depends on what you have going on in your life as well. If you're pregnant, I found when I was pregnant, I don't like red meat. I despise it. I'm an A blood type. Completely and totally will despise red meat, but there were times while I was pregnant that I needed to have a burger, like a big, greasy, bloody burger. I just had to have it. And so it just, depends on what's going on in your life as well. Type B blood types, like my son, tend to be intellectual. They are more prone to nervous disorders. They're investigators. They're not super emotional about things oftentimes. The foods they do best on are lamb, fruits, and vegetables. Everything that they do has to make sense. So if they're going to exercise, the exercise has to make complete and total sense. There are 4 or 5 no-no foods for type B blood types, and that is chicken. Chicken will you can actually be like you're allergic to chicken kind of thing when you're eating for your blood type, and you're a B blood type. Oftentimes chicken, the blood just doesn't know how to process it, the body doesn't know what to do with it, so it just pushes it out. I have actually seen some pretty extreme cases where some people with B blood types, literally they eat chicken and they have terrible stomach cramps, they have constipation or diarrhea, and it's a very sad situation because chicken does tend to be one of the most inexpensive meats and readily available, and people are like, oh, chicken's most healthiest meat. Not necessarily, it depends on your blood type. They need to stay away from tomatoes, corn, soy, and peanuts as well. Type AB, they tend to be really spiritual. They want to be vegetarians, but due to like the spiritual aspect of it, but it doesn't really work out very well for them. They see the planet and the world very differently. These are your people who are like the artists and, you know, are at one with the earth. And, you know, these people are just really interesting and cool people to know, to get to know. And I'm saying not every one of them is like this, but I do tend to know quite a few people that are AB that are just like this. Now, my husband, on the other hand, he's AB and he does not seem like he sees the world and planet differently. They have very sensitive immune systems, so you want to make sure they get a lot of probiotics, elderberry syrup, drinking bone broth. You got to support their immune system the best you can. They must have lamb, tomatoes, and rosemary. Those are the 3 main things that are really good for a AB blood type. So if like they're sick or they have the flu or they're trying to get over something, lamb, tomatoes, rosemary. They also should avoid chicken, but they can have, you know, like tomatoes and other things like that. Type O, pattern has shown best that they do best on red meat and cooked vegetables. Oftentimes, they don't like raw vegetables. They don't feel good after they eat raw vegetables. They get a lot of gas and whatnot, but the cooked vegetables do really good for them. It is good for them to stay away from grains and dairy. They should also do strenuous exercise. Like that's how they feel the best when they do strenuous exercise. My stepdad is an O blood type, and he does not feel right unless he has some form of red meat, you know, wild game red meat, in his diet daily. He'll have chicken and be like, okay, whatever, that was fine, but I want some steak, I want a burger, I want some ribs, I want, you know, all of this yummy stuff. Now for type B, a lot of people are like, wait a minute, I can't give my kid lamb every day, that's expensive. Beef actually is a neutral type of meat for the type Bs. So as long as you're getting grass-fed beef, you know, whatever, that's great. But if you're going to start your kid out on certain foods like I am, where I plan on giving my son liver, because it's really high in vitamin A and proteins and just vitamin D. I mean, all these really great vitamins that are really good for kids, especially once mom's milk starts to slowly, around 6 months, doesn't give you the same amount of iron that it did. So he's gonna get liver. It's so nutrient dense and it's so good for you. So if you're going to give your child liver, try to follow the blood type diet in the beginning and give them just a little bit and see how they do with it. If you have any more questions about blood type, diets, and whatnot, that's great. I can answer your questions for you the best that I can. I study a lot about the blood type diets in school to become a nutritionist, and we deal with it a lot up in naturopathic schools. So I think I can answer a lot of good questions for you guys. I will be posting in the next day or so a blog post on my website a little bit more about blood types, so it's easier to reference. But until later, until next time, you guys can just comment below, leave me a little question, and I can get back with you. Talk to you later.